This is Leon Gray. I was expecting you to come in.
Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry. No.
Come on.
Not as telepathic as we thought we were.
Yo, what's going on? It's your boy, Big Wavy Roy Johnson here.
Hello, everyone. This is the interview queen, Alicia, too.
This is the infamous Cameron Solis.
This is the professional Nathan Cruz.
This is Benji.
This is the Callahan Death Machine in the draw, and the face of Impact Wrestling, Sammy Callahan.
The one and only chocolate Thunder Willie Mack.
This is Shreddy Breck, aka Mr. Clangin' and Bangin'.
And you're listening.
You are listening to
Broken but Glorious.
Broken but Glorious.
Broken but Glorious. Hey, yeah.
Hello, welcome to Broken but Glorious on bbgwrestling.com. I'm Chris Lappin. I'm delighted to be joined online by Made to Last, Leon Gray and Ryan Thorn. How are you doing this evening, lads?
All right, not bad.
Yeah, good, mate. Really good. Happy to be here.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. How have you been surviving lockdown?
I've been working the entire time. Yeah, I've not had any time off, so it's working in a hospital. It's basically been the same, but a bit more chaotic. So, yeah, there's not really been much change for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different. I always feel guilty when Leon talks about what he's been up to, because he's like testing people for COVID. I've just maybe drank a bit more and generally just sort of played more FIFA, lazed around a little bit more. I've been working from home, but
yeah, same here.
But yeah, my beer intake has grown quite significantly over the last 3 or 4 months.
It's not my beer intake; it's my cake and frothy coffees intake has gone up I've put on over a stone since March. I've lost £6 of it back now, but it's good.
That's decent.
It's coming off slowly, but yeah, we're going from lovely frothy coffees down to black coffee and no cake.
Yeah, the frothy coffees definitely sound better.
Yeah, we'll go. We used to buy a pack a week, and we'd have one in the evening. But then we'll have more like one, like 4 or 5 a day, because we're just sitting. You've been like binging any series you can recommend, Phil?
I started The Sopranos for the first time. I'd never watched it before, so I've done that for the first time over lockdown, and obviously loved it because it's sensational, and it's one of those where you're left wondering why you waited so long to watch it when everybody recommends it. But yeah, that's definitely been the highlight for me. Did all 6 seasons in about 3 weeks or something stupid in the end, I think.
Yeah, Sopranos has been on my list for years, and I just have never got around to watching it. There's like Sopranos, Breaking Bad, all these brilliant shows. I've just never got around to watching it. Definitely
pull the trigger on The Sopranos. I had a whale of a time watching it. It's one of those where it's the equal part sort of dramatic and gripping, but also like hilarious, and it was much more sophisticated than I was expecting, I think, as well. I thought it'd be your typical sort of mobster sort of violence and that sort of thing, but as like a character study of them all, I think it's really, really interesting.
Cool. What about you?
Just the usuals that everyone watch, like Tiger King and things like that. I managed to find some time to get them in, but again, Sopranos is on my list of things to watch. I've not got around to it yet, but I'm sure if Brian's telling me that it's good, I'll give it a watch.
I tell you what, though, Tiger King feels like years ago now.
Yeah.
As soon as you said that, then I was like, bloody hell, that feels like that happened about 2017.
March, wasn't it? Was it March it came out?
Yeah, it's pretty much straight away, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. I've lost all track of time. Like I barely know what month we're in anymore, or like what day it is. No concept of time anymore.
I was convinced it was Friday tomorrow. I was like, it's only 1 day left of the week, but it's not. It's like 2 days left. What about wrestling-wise? Are you both wrestling fans, or have you been watching much?
Yeah, I've been keeping up with as much as I can. There's just that much to watch nowadays. Like you've got NXT UK, SmackDown, Raw, AEW, Impact, and then the odd like New Japan shows, things like that. There's just so much to kind of keep track of.
Have you seen the new NXT UK arena?
Yeah, that was me.
Looks amazing.
Actually, yeah, I saw the quick clip of that. Looks really interesting. Yeah. Excited that's getting going again.
Yeah. I'm chuffed that that's back up, and it looks like a good setup. See, I really like this Thunderdome. if like people stop trying to spoil it. But it's a good idea. I think it works, man.
It's definitely better. I found Raw and SmackDown in particular quite hard to watch when it was just in the Performance Centre and there was no real crowd to speak of. I lost interest, if I'm completely honest. So I kept in touch with the pay-per-views and sort of read into the storylines a bit, so I knew what was going on. But the actual weekly shows I found quite difficult to watch and difficult to hold your attention. NXT I didn't find too bad because that's always had a different feel anyway. But unexpectedly, I've found myself enjoying AEW a lot more. I was excited when it came around, but then for whatever reason, I've never really been hooked by the weekly shows, and I've never really enjoyed it as much as I thought I would. But then, I think during lockdown, it's coming to its own, and I think it's my go-to now. It's the first one I watch when I sit down to watch me wrestling.
I think what the difference has been between the no fan era between the two is WWE. It sounds it's really rehearsed, and it drives me mad. The banging on the plexiglass. Whereas, AEW, they're just being themselves around the edge, and it just that Kevin Dunn's just telling cheer now, do this is awesome chants. Like no.
Although you do get the odd gem I've found on the WWE ones. There seems to be like one rogue shout like every other show or something. Like I'm trying to remember some of them. Somebody shouted eye for an eye when they were trying to decide a stipulation for another match recently, and I think somebody shouted bask in his ass during the Keith Lee match recently as well. So you get like the odd rogue shout that's quite good fun. But you're absolutely right. It's it does feel a bit corporate.
Yeah, but they've done it where they've shown the women booing, people booing, but then they're wearing a T-shirt of the wrestler. They're booing you like. It's not right. It just doesn't make sense.
It feels a bit like when you're at training and there's a match at training, and you just make all the right noises in all the right places, sort of playing the part of the crowd. It feels a little bit like that. You're right, where when you're supposed to boo or cheer, so you boo or cheer more as a help to the guys in the ring than through any actual emotion or enjoyment.
Are you both back in training now?
Yeah. So now that we had a bit of a extra delay with like the Manchester lockdown and stuff, that stopped us kind of training. Me more so, like working in the hospital, I have to be very careful, like where I expose myself to, and make sure I don't expose a risk to the people training or like people in the hospital. But now everything's kind of calmed down. Where we live has been like taken out of the lockdown rules, so we've started going back to training, and obviously going to start upping that and getting ready for shows. While we've not had much training, we've been both like taking parts in Zoom sessions with Fighting Spirit. So like JD will have like Zoom classes, and we'll all watch a match on the network together, and he'll like break it down and teach us from like Eddie Guerrero matches, Rey Mysterio matches, things like that. Chris Benoit. I know we're not supposed to talk about him, but he was a pretty good wrestler. So if you can learn the wrestling bit from him, I think you're okay.
Cool. Have you found getting back into training? How was your first bump? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, bumps weren't too bad. I think the bumps you get quite quickly back into the rhythm of it. You forget how much the ropes mess up your back when you've not been doing it. I don't know what it is. I presume it's just your body gets used to it, or you build a bit of callous skin or scar tissue or whatever. But when you, particularly when you're running the ropes quite hard, if you've not done it in ages, or like the first time you go to do it, you end up with a back that looks like you've been to see a dominatrix or something. Wow. It's ridiculous. You can't get away from it. You just have these huge big red marks right the way across your back, and it does look like you've been whipped or something, and you can't avoid it really. I forgot about that. You have to come home and sort of explain that you have been wrestling. I've definitely been wrestling. Absolutely, definitely been wrestling. So that's the funny bit. It doesn't hurt or anything like that. It's just it's just very, very noticeable. But actually getting back into the swing of it, I think the the first session, I was absolutely blown up in terms of cardio. I think I've forgotten what cardio was, to be honest, during lockdown. I was still lifting weights a lot, but I wasn't doing much in terms of decent cardio work. And then we ran some drills, just like cardio drills and fitness drills. And I was blowing out my ass after about 10 minutes. Yeah, as in a bad way. And I think some of the others were as well. I think that's been the biggest shock. I think the bumps have all come okay, and even some of the things like some like exchanging holds and things, a lot of that sort of muscle memory, and it's quite nice that even after a few months off, you still sort of have that in you, and you move without thinking. But yeah, the cardio side of it, and actually having to do the drills and wrestle in the ring, that's been the worst part for me personally.
Yeah, I'd agree with Ryan. It's the bumping was surprisingly not too bad. It was the cardio. I'm not even sure I lasted 10 minutes before I was boring. But yeah, I'd agree. It's the cardio that's done me in.
Have you had a influx of new guys coming in?
Yeah, again, we'll not go into massive detail of why, but there was a movement, and certain schools closed down for good reason. So a lot of their students have had to find new homes and have come to the schools that we train at because they're actually reputable and the trainers are decent. So there has been quite a lot of people, and then mix that in with the reduced sessions to make sure that we can distance and keeping partners limited. So for example, me and Ryan have teamed up. So if we go training, we'll only work with each other. So they're some of the kind of post lockdown rules that have been put in place is we only work with the same partner for the entire session.
That makes sense.
So because me and Ryan we're mates outside of wrestling as well as in it, we've partnered up. So at training, we'll train against each other, and we just kind of keep to the two of us.
It's quite frustrating in a way as well, because obviously we mostly wrestle as a tag team, and over lockdown we've had ideas for new moves and sequences and things like that we quite like to try out. But if it takes the two of us to do the move or to run the sequence, and then somebody else to be on the receiving end, it means we've not been able to put it into practice yet, and we've not been able to sort of get back in the ring and actually try it out, because as it is at the moment with the regulations, we're only really supposed to interact with each other. So we've thought up all these ideas, and we've got notepads full of new moves and new things we want to try, but we can only do the stuff that is just like a one person move, and we can only do that to each other. So anything a bit clever or that involves sort of 3 or more people, we've not had the chance to do yet, but we're chomping at the bit to try and start all these new things and get all these new moves perfected, and just haven't had the chance, and I don't know when we will either. So that's been a little bit frustrating, but it just feels great being back in the ring. It feels great seeing your mates again as well. I think I didn't realise how much I missed everybody until I saw them all again, and I was like, oh bloody hell! It's been a long time since we've all seen each other, and it's great to be around again. But yeah, it's really good to be back. Feels great.
Cool. So, Leon, you're doing a charity walk soon, so let the listeners know about the cause you're doing it for and what happened.
Yeah, so I'm starting it tomorrow. Obviously, from when we're recording this, when the podcast goes out, I'll probably have already completed it. Hopefully, completed it. But yeah, we're one of our friends from our shoot job contracted COVID quite early on, and he ended up on life support. So they told him that he had 10 hours left to live. He had to say goodbye to all his family over the phone, and then they put him in a medically induced coma and basically said, you're probably not going to wake up. He was on the ECMO machine for 33 days. To put it into perspective, I think before him, the longest someone had been on the machine for was 3 days.
Oh wow!
So that's how kind of bad it was, but that machine kept him alive. The staff that worked there at the hospital obviously were fantastic and managed to keep him alive. All stayed very positive, and somehow he's managed to pull through. He's making a great recovery now. It's all down to the care that the hospital gave him and how well they looked after him. So we've decided to do a walk from the hospital that he was at that saved his life, which is in Manchester. And we're going to walk to the top of Snowdon in Wales.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we're taking like a scenic route around the coast as well. It's going to take about 4 days to complete it. And it's about like 120 odd miles. So, it's a bit of a challenge. Like I keep looking at some of the maps.
I was going to say, if the weather's better for you than it is today.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. Like I can't back out now. Like people have donated money, so I'm going to do it, whether it's a thunderstorm or what. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Do you know where you're? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Fun.
Like I said, do you know where you're going to be sleeping?
Yeah. So there's a in Prestatyn we're stopping one day. I think it's at Prestatyn Sands. So they've like kindly donate as their donation to us for the cause. They're like allowing us to stay in one of the caravans for a night at no
amazing.
charge, and they're gonna like give us some like food and stuff. So they've been great there. They've been really supportive and helpful, and just making sure that we're safe and okay. We've got somewhere to rest up. That we've got thingy. I think they've got friends all around the area, like kind of in North Wales, and they're like telling their mates that we're doing this walk, and if anyone can help out. And then the other two were just hotels. So we found one in Chester for the first night, and then the last night is we've gone a bit fancy and booked a room in an abbey in Lanroost. So we're in this massive like abbey, probably covered in mud and rain, and only wearing shorts probably. And everyone, I'm expecting it all to be like Downton Abbey, and we're just going to turn up in waterproofs and stinking probably. It should be good. I'll post all the stuff on my social media, so if anyone's listening wants to donate, it's for a good cause. We're trying to raise money to get new machines for the hospital so that we can save more people's lives.
Yeah, I'll put links to it in the descriptions if anybody wants to donate. So.
Nice one.
It reminds me, mate, my mum's given me some cash to hand over to you, so I'll pass that on next time I see you.
Lovely.
Amazing.
Tell her thank you.
Will do.
Ryan's mum is the biggest Made to Last fan. Like,
yes,
really.
Amazing.
She like pretty much everything you post on Instagram. I think she likes. She posted a photo of a newspaper clipping all about fighting spirit on her Instagram the other day. I mean, she just loves it, and she's made it up, to be honest.
This is the infamous Cameron Solis, and you're listening to Broken but Glorious.
So, who was your favourite wrestler growing up?
Growing up, probably Sting. I got into WCW way before I was in WWE. Mostly because on old Sky, Cartoon Network turned into TNT at like 10 or 11 in the evening, and so I'd been watching cartoons and left the room, and then I walked back in, and it was Sting coming down from the rafters to the back of the NWO with a baseball bat, and I was like, oh man, this is fucking cool. And that was me then, and then being sort of young enough to really be into it and to really sort of believe in a character. That's what gripped me to begin with, and then like you say, I was always a WCW guy growing up. So Jericho's, Rey Mysterio's, Billy Kidman, all those guys really drew me in and made me fall in love with it. And then I loved Kevin Nash as well. I don't think that's cool anymore. I don't think you're allowed to love Kevin Nash. But I thought he was brilliant and loved watching him on TV and believed everything he ever said. And and he seems to be a decent guy on the socials these days as well. He seems to fight all the right causes, and that's always nice as well, because a lot of the time, particularly in wrestling, I think there's a lot of people with big opinions, and they're all the wrong ones. So to see somebody from back then that had a bit of a bad reputation backstage actually being a pretty sound guy on social media is quite nice. So yeah, I'd say Sting was always my biggest one growing up. The face paint, the baseball bat coming down from the ceiling. You know, as a young person falling in love with wrestling, that's exactly what you want to see. Something a bit mad, something a bit different. This weird character that is larger than life. That was what drew me in, definitely.
What about you, Leon?
Yeah, so similar to Ryan, growing up, I was more kind of into WCW than like WWF at some points. I got into it early enough where my favourite was like Macho Man. I think just because of all his bright colours and how he had a different outfit on pretty much every time.
Macho Man's my favourite since
big Macho Man fan
since the late 80s. I've always been a huge Macho Man fan.
Yeah, it was just, that's kind of it. Like, he just stood out with how bright his outfits were and everything. So big Macho Man fan at first, and then as I started getting a bit older, I just watched more WCW. It was the cruiserweights again that had kind of attracted me. So like Ryan was saying, Jericho, Joe Juventud, Rey Mysterio, Psychosis, all those guys. Like, you're watching them and suddenly someone's being thrown like 20 foot across the ring and is absolutely fine, or they'd be doing like 7 flips and things like that. Billy Kidman hitting the shooting star press. I was just absolutely amazed by it all. And I mean, Joe, that kind of reflects into my style of wrestling myself. Is I take those kind of high-flying risks a bit more because I was, I've kind of grown up watching the WCW cruiserweight division.
It's crazy. I've watched a lot of it back since we got the network, and since you can watch all the old Nitros and stuff. I've watched loads of those matches back, the old cruiserweight stuff that I fell in love with, and it's amazing how many botches there are. Like by today's standards, you'll watch like a 205 live match, and it's all pretty seamless. Or you watch Ricochet, and he does crazy things. It's taking it a step on from what those guys were doing it, but he does it all perfectly. And obviously there's the odd botch every now and again, but you go and watch some of those cruiserweight matches from the mid-90s, and some of them are terrible. Some of them are absolutely terrible. I watched a UV one, and I can't remember who he was against off the top of my head, but he botched he went for a springboard finisher or something, and he completely botched it, fell into the ring, and then just hit like a standing leg drop and got the pin. And I was like, oh, you'd never get away with that today. Like, the internet never stopped talking about that now. Honestly, some of it's really funny. Like, obviously they set the scene, and they introduced that style to American audiences and global audiences, and that's to be commended. But it's crazy to think how much slicker it is now, and how much more almost perfect it is now comparatively. And it's not as fresh and it's not as exciting, which is why you can watch for example, like Tony Nese is a good example of somebody who's pretty much flawless in the ring. Like, he does everything absolutely brilliantly. But you watch his match, and it's not quite as exciting as it was watching, say, Psychosis in 96 or 97, even though he's probably misstepping all over the place and slipping on the ropes and things like that. It's an interesting comparison. The product we've got now, by comparison, is almost perfect, and we maybe take that for granted sometimes, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. It's probably because it's so slick that we don't find it as interesting.
True. And I think we've seen most things before as well, haven't we? There's only so many combinations of flips and dives and things you can do, and watching it in sort of 96, 97, 98, it was something you'd never seen before, really. And then watching it now, it's something that you've seen 1,000 times before. So to really grab you and to really get your attention, it's got to be something really good and really new and really interesting. And I mean, that's funny. One of the ways I want to tell people why it is I like wrestling and what grabs me when I'm watching it. Because obviously, we've all watched we've all watched wrestling for decades now, and we've all seen a million matches probably. But then that time you see something new that you've not seen before, it still just blows your brain, and like something that you've not been able to predict and you've not seen coming. And then somebody turns. When Matt Sydal did the shooting star press and Orton caught him with the RKO, and you're like, oh yeah, this still gets me, like something cool like that. This still grabs me every time, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, and the cruiserweights on the WCW, it was only like a 10-20 minutes of the whole show. But now, even in the main events, everyone's a lot smaller and you have a cruiserweight style anyway, so it's not as special, I don't think.
Whereas you're right.
Go back, and whereas 90% of the show is big lumber and people just hitting each other on the back. To have these like 10-15 minutes of just excitement, it's just stood out against all the Hulk Hogan's, the Kevin Nash's, Scott Hall's, the people who are like the top guys in WCW are probably in their 40s, whereas you have these exciting cruiserweights.
Yeah,
that's a great contrast. What about when you started training? Did you have an idea of a character you wanted to be?
So I definitely did. Yeah, I did. So originally, like, I was gonna be wrestling under like a different moniker. So I was gonna have Ricky Nitro as my name. Like, I've just used it for everything, like since I can remember. Then I was thinking, like, the Nitro coming from like being a WCW fan, and then remembering obviously Johnny Nitro did the exact same thing. I was like, oh no, maybe I can't use that. So I was like, come up with a different idea, and I had this idea where I wanted to be an alien. So I was gonna was gonna get like proper like masks and costume and everything. Like, I designed it all. I was gonna like base everything around being an alien, and I just thought like it'd be so easy to kind of be a face or a heel, no matter like what company wanted you to be. So it's like, oh, I need a face, I can do that. And you just come out as the alien, and as a face, you're like, oh my god, I've come to planet Earth to because it's the only planet that has professional wrestling. Professional wrestling is the best sport in the world. Nice. And proper cheek pop the crowd, and if you're on kids shows especially, they'll eat that up. And then the same other way around, they want you to be a heel. You just go, all right, okay, come out. Oh, I've come to planet Earth to destroy professional wrestling because it's rubbish. And then everyone's, boo, I love professional wrestling. You go, no, it's rubbish. I'm going to kill everyone. And so I had all this. I was thinking, oh my god, this is gold. I'm set here. So I just need a new name. So I come up with the Leon Grey name to kind of sound like an alien. Grey being like Greys, the alien nicknames. And got at it all, and I was set. Like, I'm contacting Disney, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely doing this. I'm running with this idea. This is gold. I'm gonna get loads of bookings off this. And then like I run it by like Zach Gibson and Joey Hayes, and both of them straight away went, oh yeah, good idea. Don't wear a mask. I was like, all right, okay. So why? They're going, just get a mask and train in it and see if you still want to wear a mask. I was like, right. I'm like, I definitely want to wear a mask. I've definitely decided, want to be one of these WCW like luchadors that I've been watching. And again, got a mask. Tried it on at training. Absolutely hated it. And they're like, yeah, I didn't want to like just kind of ruin your dreams and your idea, but it's hard work wrestling in a mask. I was like, oh yeah, weren't too much of a fan. I was adjusting it too much. So anyone wrestling in a mask, well done to you. It's a nightmare. So knocked that on the head, and then I was just like, should I just be like cool and tattoo? I'm quite a likable guy anyway. So we just like decided I wanted to do tag team stuff. I've like quickly realised actually I really like tag team wrestling. When I think back of all my favourite matches, the Steiner brothers, Harlem Heat, it's just all tag teams, Legion of Doom, British Bulldogs. And it took me quite a while until I was training to like really click of actually all my favourite stuff is like tag teams and the WCW luchadors. And I was like, oh right, okay. And then obviously met Ryan at training, and we decided quite early on that we fancied being a tag team. And it just didn't quite pan out that way from training. I'm not sure why, whether like Zach and JD had different ideas for us or something. I'm not sure. And then just got to a point where it was like, sod it, we're being a tag team. Let's just get matching gear made, and we just put ourselves out there as a tag team, and it seems to be working.
It was a funny one. We first had it suggested to us by Gibbo. I think he was the first one that mentioned it to me quite early doors before either of us had made our debut. He'd sort of said like we look quite good together. We're aesthetically quite similar in ways. We're about the same height, same colour hair. We both got tattoos. So we do look like we are a pairing, I guess, in that regard. And it was him that sort of first said it, and then nothing really came of that for a while. And we made our debut separately, and we did different things. I had a tag team going in Fighting Spirit with Joe Bolton. And we did different directions, and Leon was in a number of really, really good matches on Fighting Spirit cards, where he got to sort of showcase what he can do, jumping about basically. And then we ended up teaming on a show in Leeds quite spontaneously. We'd both been booked on the show, and then I think we pretty much got there and got told that we were going to be teaming up, and it was great. It was great news. It was something that we'd both thought about for a while. We'd done it a few times in training, so we had a couple of go-to moves that we'd done through training together. And then that seemed to click, and it seemed to work. And I think it was just a good energy about it all. So we carried on doing that, and we sort of thrown ourselves into it over the last year or so. Really sort of committed to that being what we want to do.
So how do your individual styles complement each other in the ring then?
I think they go together perfectly, and I know I'm going to be biased. I know Leon said before that me ma's the biggest made to last fan going, but it might be me. I might beat her to it.
It runs in the family.
yeah. But I think we go together really well because we're both naturally athletic guys. So we get in there and we're able to do things pretty much straight away. And Leon's got a real high flying style that I've never been able to master. And I always admired, obviously, talking before about the cruiserweights. I've always loved that style, but can I ball springboard? I've tried, and I absolutely can't. So he does all those things that I really like, and then I basically just pick people up and slam them. So it's a good combination. I'm in the gym all the time. I'm quite strong in that regard, but also I can jump, I can move, I can move fast. And between the two of us, we've got that sort of side of it covered, the athletic side of it covered, and then it's just little finesse, little bits of difference where we go in slightly different directions. Obviously, Leon's doing a lot of the high flying stuff really well. I'm doing some of the more powerful moves and stuff, and we've come together and combined them quite well as a team. A lot of our double team moves sort of are quite simply I'll pick people up and Leon will come off the ropes or off the turnbuckles, or fly into them, and we've been able to use both of our strengths really well as a team. I think there's some stuff that we've been doing that I'm really excited for more and more people to see as we start getting out there a bit more. But I think we blend together really well, I reckon.
Again, I would have to agree. It helps as well having our trainers being Zach Gibson and James Drake signed to WWE, arguably one of the best tag teams in the world at the moment.
Definitely.
So when we're wanting to be tag teams, who better to learn from? We train with Sam Bailey at Future Shock as well. He's been in a number of great tag teams, successful tag teams, and they're just all, between the three of them, they just really understand what we want, cover all bases with Phil's power and my speed, and try and make us the most kind of well-oiled and balanced team that we can possibly be.
Gibbo's been great with me. I was just going to say, Gibbo's been great with me in particular as well, because he he's been wrestling for so long, and he's got such a huge move set in his head and in his mind. He can do so many things, and he's developed over the years to where he is now. But what you find is a lot of the guys who've been doing it for a long time have sort of had moves in the past that they've cast aside, and they've sort of progressed on from them. But Gibbo's been great at sort of saying, "Oh yeah, I used to do this like 8 years ago, but I don't really do it anymore. Have you tried doing this? Try this one out. Try this one out." So a lot of the moves that I started with in training, and you try and develop your own move set, and you try and develop your own character. A lot of the things I started with almost came straight from Gibbo saying, "Oh yeah, I used to do this one," and then you take it and you try and change it a little bit, and you try and work around and make it into something that's your own. But I think he's had such a big influence on that side, particularly sort of developing moves and the way I work.
And I'm similar with JD, where we had a bit of a kind of not a bet competition kind of thing at training, where it'd just be seeing who could do the most stupid flips and stuff. And what you see of JD on screen is only a fraction of what he's able to do when we're training with him. And he's springboarding around the ring like the best of them. And he just doesn't put that into his moveset because he's got his moveset. He doesn't want to be too much of it, but he can do absolutely everything. And it turned into like a bit of a competition of, you can't do that. I'm like, well, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to add an extra spin in. And he's like, no, you can't do that. And I'd do it, and then he'd get annoyed, and he'd have to do it. And so he'd push me more to like the high flying side, whereas, like say, Zach has been helping Ryan with the powerhouse side of things. So yeah, it works.
Yeah, it wasn't until I saw Sam Bailey live I realised how good he was. I've seen him quite a bit on video, but he was at Wrestle Island team with Sugar Dunkerton.
Amazing.
Late 18 now, and just charisma, just flowing off him.
Yeah, you want to see him in training as well. I think that's when I really started to begin to understand just how good he was. He's so slick in training, and he can tie you up in 100 different ways, and he'll show you counters to counters to counters. But like really exciting ones as well. And we were training the other day with him, and he's obviously, everybody knows like a number of different wrist lock counters and things like that. But he was showing you ones that made you sort of like stand back and smile and be like, "Oh bloody hell, that's great!" And then you're practicing them yourself, and you're like, "Ah, this is so smooth, and it fits so well." And yeah, I don't think I'd had a really good appreciation of just how talented and knowledgeable he is until you spend a few hours with him in the gym, and you see what he can do is crazy. He's so slick, chain wrestling, and he's so slick. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I saw Zach Gibson years and years ago in an All-Star show, and he was in a 6-man tag. He was teaming with Dean Allmark and James Mason against Gangrel, Thunder and Nathan Cruz. So it's quite a random match, but he stood out, even though he was just he wasn't the I am Liverpool's number one quite yet. He was playing face, but he did stand out. He was the standout in that match, and I've always remembered him ever since. And it's quite funny, the photo of him and my son afterwards, and he's got hair, and he just looks dead weird these days. You see how he is now. So.
Was he Zach Gibson then, or was he Diamond?
He was Zach Gibson. He got introduced to Zach Gibson, so it was just before he started getting his big goatee and get shaved in his head and become Liverpool's number one. Because next time I saw him, he was Liverpool's number one, which certainly wasn't that long after that. Where did the Made to Last team name come from? It's quite an unusual one.
That was from me. So Made to Last it's actually a song name. I'm not even sure if I've ever told this to Ryan, so you can learn the origin at the same time. So it's a song name of a song that are kind of really connected with the lyrics too, and it was just a meaningful song to me at the time, and I decided to have that as kind of my moniker of like Joe, like a kind of a nickname, Joe made to last Leon Gray. So in like some of the early photos you might see in like my pre kind of tag team gear, I've still got the made to last like writing and on my gear, everything on t-shirts. And then when we're paired together with Ryan, I just put it forward as a suggestion for the team name because I just felt that it fit for us as well. You know, in my head, like this isn't kind of kayfabe being in character, like, oh, we'll never split up. But I genuinely, I don't want to split up and not be in a tag team with Ryan. Like, our goal is to push forward as a tag team. We're not really looking for, okay, let's be a tag team until we get some steam and then one of us can turn on the other and we can have great singles careers. That isn't what we want. We want to be a tag team. So the made to last name kind of then morphed into being for us of, the team is literally made to last. We don't want to be a flash in the pan. Yeah, we'll be a tag team for a bit and then we'll move on. We want to be together. You know, if people book us singly, then it is what it is. We're probably going to still take bookings as a single. But like,
money's money, mate.
yeah, exactly, John. And I'm not going to like be bitter at him if he goes, I've got a singles booking. I'll be right there with my mate's last t-shirt on in the crowd, cheering him on and supporting him the same as he does if I get a singles booking. But we want tag team bookings. We want to go ahead as a tag team. We want to progress as a tag team. We don't want to be. We're not two singles guys tagging together to try and just think, oh, well, we'll do this for a bit. We want to be a tag team. We want the gear to match. We want to look like a team. We want all the moves to match. We know what each other are thinking at every time. We want to be the most well-oiled team we can be. And I don't envision my kind of wrestling future not being in a tag team and not being with Ryan. That is how I want my career to go, in a tag team with Ryan and take the team as far as we can go.
Is it By Issues, the song?
It is, yeah. That's the song.
Yeah. So there was only two songs I could think of called Made to Last. There's one by Issues and one by Semisonic. I was like, I'm just which one it is.
It was either going to be Made to Last. It was either going to be Made to Last or Secret Smile. They were the two tag team names.
I basically just listen to Issues. Is my problem. So if the band isn't Issues, I've probably not heard of them.
It's either Issues or like really, really bad white guy emo rap. That's the other thing that you listen to a lot of.
My 15-year-old's starting.
Don't tell everyone. That bit was meant to be just between me and Ryan. So if anyone's listening, I don't listen to whiny white emo rap at all. That's a lie.
Hi, this is Matt Davis, and you're listening to Broken But Glorious.
So since you've had your last show, we've had the Black Lives Matters movements, we've had speaking out movements. How do you feel Britwres is going to be different when we're returning?
Hopefully there'll be quite a few less assholes about, should we say? Yeah. So, yeah. Good.
I think it's one of those where the speaking out movement in particular, because it was obviously very explicitly about wrestling. I think that was a harrowing few days, to be honest. It was a really difficult few days, and obviously we're all mates, and we've got a lot of sort of WhatsApp groups or whatever else going on, and I think for everybody who sort of sat there reading it, none of us could tear ourselves away from our phones. And I've said before to some of the lads, but like that first night after it came out, I didn't sleep. I was just glued to my phone and just couldn't get to sleep, couldn't switch my mind off. And obviously what the girls did who've come out and spoke out, and some of the girls who've been involved in organising things and liaising and everything they've done is so impressive, and absolutely full of admiration for a lot of the people involved. And at the time and even more so now, you just hope that it leads to an environment that's better. There's just better for pro wrestling that people feel comfortable in, that people can partake in without without feeling like they're vulnerable to people trying to take advantage of them in whatever way. We're all very hopeful that's the pro wrestling world that we go back to. How quick all changes happen or whatnot will be one of those that'll all come out in the wash when shows start running again. But I think from me and Leon's point of view, we trained with a lot of the girls who were coming forward. We've done shows with a lot of the girls who were coming forward. Some of them are close friends, some of them are mates, some of them are people we see at shows, and we're dead proud of them, and they've got our full encouragement, and hopefully we're going back to a wrestling world where everybody feels comfortable and everybody's safe. I mean, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, them first 2 days, I think I was just looking up hashtag speaking out every 20 minutes because it's just some harrowing stories coming out of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the butterfly of British wrestler MJ Max, and you're listening to Broken But Glorious Wrestling Podcast.
It's probably going to be my last question, but it's probably a biggie. So, if you were promoters for a day promoting a show, so using wrestlers you either worked with or trained with, wrestlers that are associated to you in some way, if I give you a match type between you, can you tell me who you'd put in that match? I don't know if you want to do one guy each.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
So,
well, Ryan, if you pick the first person, and I'll pick their opponent.
All right, sound, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Right, so who would be in your opening contest to get the crowd excited?
It's Bailey. I know we just spoke about him at length there. So it feels like a bit of an obvious pick, but I've done an opening match with Sam Bailey. So I sat down with him and listened to him explain the different aspects and how important different things are. So I know firsthand exactly how he thinks about it and the way his mind works for an opening contest, and sort of having had that experience, I'd back him to do it every time. And like you were saying yourself before, Chris, he's so charismatic and he's such a big character that he's somebody who's gonna excite the crowd straight away. He'd probably be raking heel, so he'd have people booing him straight away because he always does, and he'd have the crowd gripped straight away, no doubt about it.
Amazing.
And I'd put him against probably Tom Thelwell. So Thelwell again is a great lad. They've had.
I didn't realise how young he was.
Yeah, he's a kid.
He's just turned 18, or I can't remember.
I should know. I adopted him as my son. So I should know that, but I don't.
I thought he was in his early 20s. I didn't realise he was still a teenager until recently.
Yeah, he's still a teenager. But I've seen that match at Future Shock, Sam Bailey and Tom Thelwell.
Wow.
And it was a great match, and every time I see Tom, he just seems to be improving. I've seen his recent pictures with he's joined Nush and his like the working out stuff that he's doing as a personal trainer, and he's gaining like phenomenal shape as well now. So I just think kind of there's no limit for Tom. I think he's going to be a big star one day, and he'll just work well with Sam, because who doesn't? Sam's great.
Thelwell as well is a great guy to have backstage too. If you're ever on a show with him, or whether you do a ring crew or you're actually working the show, or you're sort of hanging out with him backstage somewhere else, he's somebody who brings everybody together really well as well. Everybody likes to sort of make fun of him and have little digs at him and stuff like that, but in a really good way. And he's brilliant for it. He acts up to it. He encourages it a bit, and he almost plays a bit of a character sometimes when you're just hanging out. He's a great lad to have around.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing having this like 6 months off has been like great. It's going to be amazing coming back, because everybody's had the chance to like wrestle their bodies, get rid of them little niggling injuries they've had, and they've all you'll be able to, because you've had 6 months, you could make little tweaks to the characters that you've maybe what's been working well, what hasn't been working well in the last year or so, where you can completely focus. I'm really excited for when Britwres comes back, just because everyone's from what I've seen, so many people have got in such phenomenal shape.
Yeah, Ethan Allen
Over
is a
lockdown,
great
it's gonna be-
example. Ethan Allen looks incredible. He the weight he's put on, but obviously in a really positive way. The guy's huge. Like he's he's obviously always been destined for big things, and he still very much is. But the dedication that he's put into transforming his body is crazy and something to be admired. Absolutely.
I'm thinking as if you think of yourselves as artists, coming back for your first match, you're going to want it to be amazing. so I reckon the first cards are just going to be everybody's creative juices going in, so it's going to be so fun. And everyone's
going to get injured.
Phenomenal shape.
Everyone will end up injured because they're just going to give like Joe absolutely everything, like the full beans in the first match, which everyone's just going to be blowing, and everyone will just get injured because they're just gonna like feel like they've got to get the last 6 months into one match. You're just going to get everyone getting battered.
That first show everybody goes to, they're going to see like 100 moves they've never seen before, because everybody's going to have been doing the exact same thing, just sat at home for 6 months watching wrestling, trying to dream up new moves and like picking up the dog or picking up the cat, trying to see how they can slam him in a new way and stuff like that. Like my girlfriend's sick to the back teeth of me because I just keep like calling her over and being like, right, okay, just stand there and then we'll pick you up like this. Like it's been like 6 months of that for her, and she's and she must be sick of it now. So she's really glad the training started again. But yeah, that first show back, everybody's in for a treat, I think, because there's going to be so much stuff that people have been working on, thinking about. I know Joe Bolton's been talking to me a little bit about some of the character work he's been doing over the 6 months, and I think he's going to do some really interesting stuff. I'm really excited to see what he comes out with, but that'll be like a complete character overhaul from what I hear. So I think you're exactly right. There's going to be new things galore when it all gets going again.
Yeah, I've spoken as nearly everybody I've spoken to is they maybe not got a full on new gimmick, but they're making quite significant changes to their look or their moveset or a complete overhaul of it. And some people are wanting to go down a darker route with maybe like David Grant. I think he's more southern based. He wants to go down like a darker. He's quite a comedy big guy wrestler. He's wanting to go down like a darker route now because he's got well into anime during lockdown.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. So back to your card. So what would be your comedy match?
Do you want to go first this time, or do you want me to go first again, Leo?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Got to be Big Guns Joe on it.
Yes,
definitely. The most entertaining like wrestler around in the Northwest at the moment. Again, absolutely love the guy. It's one of those, even when he's like playing a heel, like I can't help myself. But if you see me just around, if I'm ring crewing, if I'm Joe watching the match from backstage, if I'm just in the crowd, wherever I am, if Joe is on, I can't help but smile. And like you look around and you'll find me in pictures. I'm just in the background. I have the biggest grin on my face. I just find his entire character hilarious. Like one of the first kind of like Britwres shows I went to, like of recent memory, where I've started really getting into the British scene again, was like a GPW show near where I live, and Big Joe was come out. I didn't know him at the time, and like instantly I just thought, like, what a great character. It reminded me of like Mickey from Shameless, Shameless, and like I just thought it was such a great character, and he's Joe over the last couple of years, like with the help of Joe, Sam Bailey, Zach Gibson, James Drake, Chris Brooker, they put a lot into like his character building of being that character, and he's so phenomenal at playing that character. And he's hilarious. He's just it's just great. He's definitely my comedy pick. Got to be Big Joe.
Yeah, that was the TNT Ignition show in February. That was the first time I've ever seen him work face.
Yeah.
So it was weird not booing him and Shelton singing Tiny Tiny Joe at him.
Yeah. exactly. I think it's got to be. It's one of those where like it was the heel, so you'd kind of boo him and mock him, but then that's kind of the point, and it got to the point where it was so fun to like mock him that you actually was like, no, you know what? He's completely sold me to want to join in, and he's sucked me in as a fan, and like you've got all the fans who they think they know how it is and they know what's going on and they can call they can read the match better than the wrestlers can. They think they know everything, and then you just see that actually no, you're playing right into Joe's hands. He's got his character so spot on that even you who thinks you know what you're doing are playing right into his hands, and you're doing exactly what he wants. And Joe, it's just he's amazing. He's just such a good character, such a good guy as well. Like absolutely nothing bad to say about Big Joe.
No,
it's
a lot of fun.
He worked the match against Zach Gibson at Future Shock. It was at Fairfield Social Club. I can't remember when it was. It might have been a year or so ago now. And he was still heel at the time. He was still very much a heel. But obviously Gibbo is a heel everywhere, but nowhere more so than in Manchester. Yeah. And there was quite like an organic babyface reaction to Joe at that show, and it spoke to what Rick was talking about there. Sorry, Leon was talking about there, where everybody had been so keen to see him on shows and so keen to chant the stuff making fun of him, that they'd grown such an affection for him that when he was in there with a heel, he got like the biggest babyface pop you've ever seen, and it was brilliant, and it was so organic, and it was so natural, and it wasn't something where they'd been building it for a while. It was literally he was a heel, but he was working against a heel, and everybody sort of let their natural love for his character sort of turn into a babyface reaction, and it was brilliant. As far as the match goes, if we're talking comedy, I've seen them work before, but in a very interesting match, the Frog and Bucket. But I'm going to go with Mad Kurt. Obviously, he's somebody who like Joe is tearing it up at the moment and really doing well and really getting out there. We were at the Schadenfreude show at the Frog and Bucket where they worked. I can't even remember, 2 out of 3 falls sort of match, but it was a press up contest. And then there was a bread eating contest. I can't remember what else was involved in it. But I'd really like to see them work a match together. Obviously, Joe's gimmick being that he's he's the biggest guy around, the henchest guy around, and Mad Kurt being somewhat of a slender guy. I think there'd be magic there, and they've both got big personalities, big characters, big mouths on them. I think that'd be a match made in heaven.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a lot of fun. What about a women's title match?
Oh, you go, Ryan.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Women's title. I think Tonga's brilliant.
Yes,
I just think
recently. She's lovely.
I think she's great. She's like you say, she's lovely. She's a really nice person, but I think she's got such a presence, and her latest set of gear is phenomenal and plays into her character really well. I think I've taken friends to shows that I've worked that she's been on as well, and sort of everybody's always really impressed and always got positive things to say about it afterwards. And that's people who may not necessarily be into wrestling, but she leaves an impression because she's got such a good character, and she looks cool. Like, I think that's quite a simplistic way of looking at wrestling, but if somebody looks cool and you think they're cool, then you sort of like it, and you come away feeling positively about him. She's done some good stuff that I've seen. Her stuff with Chase Alexander and GPW was quite good fun as well. I think she's going to have a big 2021 when everything gets back going again. But yeah, I just think she's sound, she's one of the women that I'm excited to see what happens with.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was also going to pick Tonga. So if we can kind of do some kind of Undertaker versus Undertaker match and just have Tonga versus Tonga. I'd pick her, put her against herself. If who can I pick? I'd probably say Holly Barlow then. Again, seeing them work at Future Shock against each other, and it's again such a natural organic fit that you've got Tonga as the I'm better than you kind of pretty girl, who like just makes you completely believe that is her. Like, it doesn't seem like a character. You just watch her and you're like, she plays that role so well. You just think that is just her being her. She's lovely, really, but she's so good at that character. And then you've got Holly, who is like the most innocent kind of, the most baby face you can possibly get against Tonga, and then the comparison really works well. And again, every time I see Holly, she just seems to be getting better and better, more comfortable in the ring, more comfortable with the character, coming out of the shell more. So I'd probably pick Holly and Holly Barlow versus Tonga.
Yeah, I need to see more of Holly. I've only seen her in a Rumble, so she's only in the ring a couple of minutes. Well, a hardcore Extreme Rules stipulation type match.
I've got to go first. I'll go with. See, it's going to sound like we're just picking all our mates here, but like we kind of are, because we train with them all the time, and we see the potential that all of them have. And of course, you want the best for your mates. Like you want these people who are really good to succeed and get far.
Yes.
I'd go with Cam Solis.
Yes.
Again, I've seen him on other shows where he's been in like the no DQ matches, hardcore matches, things like that. Train with him and speak to him backstage, and he's absolutely fearless. He'd give anything a go. You put him in a match and say, okay, we're going to throw you off the roof, and he'd just like, yeah, sound. And he'd just let you throw him off the roof. Like, why not? Again, probably not sure that'd be good for the rest of his career. It won't have the longest, but I think he'd be really good. He's worked for companies like Rise that kind of pride themselves on being the more like extreme, like the UK kind of ECW, I guess, and he gets over really well over there. So I'd pick Cam.
He had a last man standing match against Scott Oberman in the last Wrestle Island show, and that wasn't family friendly.
No. But, Scott Oberman, man, what a talent that guy is.
Yes, he's come out of his shell in the last 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just found his character. And
the most gutting part of lockdown for me is that me and Ryan had a tag match scheduled against Scott Oberman and Dan Evans over at Blank Canvas, and due to everything getting cancelled, the match got scrapped.
That card for the May show looked amazing.
Yeah, it did.
And the matches that weren't announced were just as good. So just going to throw that out there. If anyone wants to book Made to Last versus Merseyside Murder Squad or Mercenary Squad, whichever one. Yeah, the Mercenary now. I can't even speak. Merseyside Mercenary Squad.
Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue as much as
if anyone wants to book it, then we all still want it. We all still want it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Who's Cameron against then?
Oh, it's a good one. I might go Spike Trevay. Is it Trevay or Trevette? Trevay. Yeah, he's not somebody I know well at all. I've only met him briefly when I was working ring crew for Progress in their show in Sheffield, and he had a hardcore match against Jimmy Havoc on that show, and it was brilliant. It was really good. Obviously, his character is larger than life, and that's what you're going to get from him as a bare minimum. And he played up to it so brilliantly in this match. There was a bit where he had Havoc tied up in the corner, and he pulled out like a painter's stand and some canvas, and dipped the brush in Havoc's bleeding forehead and proceeded to paint a portrait of him on the canvas with all the flair that you'd imagine he would do with. And it was such a unique thing. And I think sometimes we've all seen a lot of hardcore matches and a lot of matches where people are bleeding and all that goes on. And I think trying to find the unique spin on them, all the ways to really insert your own personality into those is what makes them a big success. And that's what he did so well in that match. I think, two guys who might as well be sort of nameless, generic wrestlers going hell to leather, battering each other with objects or making each other bleed all over the show. I don't think necessarily is the sort of thing I'm into. It's not the wrestling that I'm into.
No.
But if you have a really good hardcore match between two people who are telling a story and putting over a character and able to do things in a way that makes you go, oh, this guy's a prick, or this guy's brilliant, or whatever emotion you feel, I think that's when you really capture people, and that's when you create the magic and the moments that you talk about for years. And I'll certainly remember that. So I'll go with Britwres. He was a nice guy as well. I only met him briefly after the show, but he was really friendly, very down to earth guy, good fella.
Yeah, he's somebody I've seen live. I've listened to a couple of interviews with him. He does sound like a really nice guy. So there's a match you could put yourselves in if you wanted, your tag team title match.
Oh, I think I can speak for both of us on this one. I think it's a pretty easy one. It would be Gibbo and JD.
Yeah.
I think we maybe nearly possibly got to wrestle them on a show. At the start. It was when WWE was sort of taking a more controlled look on what promotions wrestlers could work for, and we'd heard from a promoter that they might have been trying to book that match.
Wow.
And then it might have been on the cards, and then it wasn't, basically. So we maybe came close once, but that's obviously the dream. The dream match. The guys who taught us everything we know, like we were saying before, have a huge influence over our style and how we wrestle. We're sort of similar in terms of JD brings the high flying stuff and the real eye catching aerial stuff, and Leon's got that in his locker, and Gibbo's got his power moves, and I've got that. Obviously, they've got way more beyond that as well, and they'd probably teach us so much being in the ring with them as opponents, as well as they have done as trainers. So I think that's probably the one. The only one that I think might come close is I know the pair of us are huge Motor City Machine Guns fans.
Yeah.
To the point where I might have given up on wrestling at a point if it hadn't been for those guys.
Oh wow.
I think when WWE hit a bit of a rut, 2008, 2009, that sort of time, I think it was quite easy to fall out of love with wrestling a little bit. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't aimed at guys like me and sort of early 20s or late teens who didn't really want the PG stuff, and it didn't really interest them, and then guys like Motor City Machine Guns and TNA really reinvigorated it was to be a pro wrestling fan, for me anyway. So whilst they if we're actually making a list, they're a distant second to JD and Gibbo, our mates, our trainers. They'd be the other one who were in consideration, I reckon.
I was gutted when they had Alex Shelley and Kushida as time splitters in NXT for like one match. I was like, oh, when they said he had Alex Shelley, I was like, oh,
yeah, it's a shame that I know Gibbo and JD were.
I think they might have done 2 matches, maybe. Yeah,
but it was a shame. You're right.
Cool. So it's your tag team, you versus the Grizzled Young Veterans. So okay, your main event then, the Made to Last Championship.
I'm going first on this one, aren't I? I think
Go on.
I think despite what Leon was saying earlier about not just wanting to give it to our mates and stuff, there's nobody I enjoy watching wrestle more than Chase Alexander. He's a big mate of ours. you know, if there was a third member of Made to Last, it'd probably be him. Not character-wise, because he's a knobhead, isn't he? But in terms of like sort of being big mates outside of show, he's the one. He's a really good fella. But again, I love watching him wrestle. I think the way he's brought his character on, and the way he's added bits to it, and he's not stood still with what he was doing. The sort of the way he's gone outside of the ring, producing like phenomenal videos to get his character over. I think he's great, and I think as soon as he walks out, you know who he is and what he's about. He brings the martini glass out with him, and it visually just looks boss. He's great, and then once he's in the ring, he can go as well, and training with him, you get a real good sense of that. You know, anytime you sort of have to run a spot or run a drill with him in training, you pretty much get it right first time, because he's so on the ball, and you know you're happy to be in the ring with him every time you get to, because you really get to perfect what you're doing, and you really get to hone your skills, and you don't have to worry about you know, the other person forgetting or going the wrong way or turning the wrong way or something like that, because he's so sharp and he's so on it with everything he does, and that translates, and you started seeing that, I think, a bit more. He's had some really good matches recently against the likes of Ridgeway. He had David Starr on that last Blank Canvas show as well. It was a really good match. You know, he's really starting to show who he is and what he's about. I think he was on a Progress pre-show as well, so he's definitely going places, and I couldn't be happier for him. I couldn't be more excited to watch him smash it, even as he is a bit of a bellend in his character, and sometimes in life as well. You know, sometimes in real life too.
Okay, for his opponent, if we're going for the main event, for me in like British wrestling, the most main event looking guy is Adam Maxted. I just think, Joe, you look at him, and he's the face of your company. Like, how he isn't in more places is completely beyond me. He's absolutely in phenomenal shape. He looks amazing. He's a great wrestler. He's just, for me, the whole package. And I don't get why he isn't more places. I don't understand why he's not everyone's champion. That is a champion. You just need to look at him, and you know that he is the top guy of your company. Again, a really nice guy. When I met him, Joe, he's always looking to improve everything. He sits down and listens to everything. He wants to listen to everyone's point of view. Joe, he'll ask trainees for their point of view of his match, because he wants to kind of see what kind of like viewpoints they may have as more so as a fan to watching him than, say, asking Gibbo, who is watching it as a technician. I think, Joe, and he just wants that opinion from everyone, so they can try and be as perfect as of a wrestler and character as possible. He's always looking for that feedback. He's always looking to improve. I just think he'd be really good. Not necessarily like picking him as a style to go against Chase, like as such. But I just think that Maxted should be your main event.
I couldn't agree more, and I think it's easy to fall into the trap that we've probably all done before in WWE with the likes of the Miz and things like that, and think, oh, he's come from telly, or he's just a phenomenally good looking guy in great shape, and he probably can't go. Like, I think he's someone you can't make that assumption with, because once he gets in the ring, he's really genuinely absolutely brilliant. I think he's got a chance to show that a lot more recently. I think the stuff that he was doing in Ireland was really good. I think I couldn't agree more. His ability in the ring is great, and his look is obviously spot on. But like Leon was saying as well, he's a top guy backstage. He was on my debut show. He was working, and I think he'd overheard somebody else talking to me, and the fact that it was my debut, and he made the point of coming over and having a chat with me, and just being great, telling me to make sure I enjoy it, giving me some pointers, just making sure that he spent a bit of time talking to the new guy, and I really appreciated it. and he was the first one to sort of ask me how it went afterwards as well. So, he made a big impression on me as being a top fella.
Oh, amazing. Cool. Oh, that's a great card. I'd really watch it. I've met Adam Maxted once at an All-Star show, and he was really nice. He made me feel very inadequate in the photo.
I think he does that. Everyone.
Yeah.
I didn't get a picture with him. I don't need that.
So before we go, do you want to promote your social media?
Yeah. So mine would be NVG Leon Gray, all one word. I think pretty much on everything. I think that's the Twitter, Instagram. They're the main two I really use. Yeah,
I'm similar. Twitter and Instagram mostly. I'm at Ryan Thorn _FS on Twitter, and I can't remember my Instagram because I think it's slightly different. It's Ryan _Thorn _FS on Instagram. I should probably post more on there, to be honest. But that's me. Yeah.
Cool. So I'll put links to everything in the description. I'll also put the link to the charity in the description below the interview. So I've really enjoyed speaking today. I'd love to have you on again in the future once everything's back to normal.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, it's been great. Really enjoyed it.